what is right, not what is easy, nor what is popular. Roy T. Bennett. Welcome to the Guyana Dialogue. I am your host, Shamiza Ali. We apologize for the late start. Tonight, we're having a panel discussion on the Guyana election campaign and projection about its outcome. The Guyana Dialogue is being sponsored by a coordinating council of Guyanese based in the US, the UK, Canada, the Caribbean, and Guyana. Funding support is by well known philanthropist Dave Narayan from Dave West Indian Imports. Please welcome my moderator and part of my panel for tonight, Dr. Tara Singh, who is a distinguished political and social scientist. Our panelists are Dr. Gangaram Das, Mr. Narayan Prasad, and Mr. Shrad Kublal. Welcome, everyone.
Welcome. Thank you very much, Shamiza.
Thank you very much, Shamiza.
Thank you, Shami. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Mr. Kublal.
Yeah.
Okay, Dr. Tara, please go ahead.
All right. Thank you very much. Once again, I joined with Shamiza to apologize for a late start. We had some technical problems. Before we start this discussion proper, I just want to give viewers an insight into the electoral system, which is not too clear to many Guyanese. First of all, there are 65 seats. 40 is known as the top-up seats, and 25 is called the regional or geographic seats. Now, the regional and geographic seats, the 25 seats are allocated to the 10 regions. Now, Region 1, which is Barima area, Morawan, what's the name of the place? Barima, Weni area, the Region 1. Region 2 is the Essequibo Coast. Region 5 is West Coast Berbice. Region 7 is the Bartika area. Each of those will get 2 regional seats, making it to 10. Now, Region 3, which is West Damara, Essequibo Islands, and Region 6, the Quarantine, will get 3 seats each, which means that's 6. Region 4, the largest region, will get 7 geographic seats. And Region 8, which is the Weni River area, and Region 9, which is Rupinuni, etc., will get 1 seat each. And Region 10, did I say call Region 10?
No, you didn't call that.
Yeah, Region 10 will get 2 seats. Okay, so that's the situation, how the 25 seats will be allocated, and they'll be allocated on the basis of the total votes they get. For every region, the total votes, you divide by the 2 seats or 3 seats, and that's the amount you have to get to qualify for a regional seat. The other 40 seats are known as the top-up seats, the national list, and those are 40. They're strictly based 40, and they're based strictly on, according to projections, if we assume that the next election will have a turnout of 70%, then we are talking that to get a seat in the top up, you have to get at least 8,000 votes. So if a party is vying to get 3 seats, they got to get at least 24,000 votes. That's based on a registered list of voters for this election is 718,000. Now recall that the 2020 election, the registered number of voters was 661,000. So that has increased by about 54,000. And it won't be surprising because the people who are 14, 15, 16, and 17 would have attained the age of 18 for voting. And there's a large chunk of the population there. So that's, I just want to, to highlight those things so people get it clear. Not all the seats in the National Assembly is allocated or determined the same way. 40% through the top-up method and 25 through the geographic method. So that's now I'll go into the campaign, but I just want to make one final for based on the 30% on the registration of 7 or 18,000. It means that based on projections that at least 520,000 people have to cast their votes based on the average of 2011, 2015, and 2018 elections is about range between 78 to 71.2% of votes. So you assume this. Now we got to realize that not everybody in this voters list will vote because a large portion are overseas and they won't vote. So even if you assume that the 3 in every 10 people are not likely to vote, we got to assume that 2 in every 10 are overseas and 1 in every 10 will be locally, and that will transport the local people projected to be about 6 or 7,000 are not likely to vote. So I throw that out for discussion. I said that is based on the pattern of voting over the years. Now I go into the panelists. I'll ask Professor. Oh, I just want a final thing I forget. In the past election we had, 2020, we had about 10 political parties. Now we only have 6 political parties contesting. Now I go into 9 political parties in 2020. Sorry, I said 10. I go into now Professor Narayan Prasad to make his general comments on the, if you want to make any comment on the voting or expected pattern of voting, and some insights, some brief insights into election campaign. Uh,
Well, in terms of the regional aspect of things, you will find that there are variation depending on the composition of the population within the country. And what I think in this election that is crucial is what people realize is happening in terms of improvement in their lifestyles and in the lifestyles of others, as well as the decisions coming through the government, if it is perceived by the people as assisting them in whatever circumstances they, they are under. And so it is crucial for the government to emphasize what they have done and what they are going to do, because the rural population is not very much attuned to what is going on in Georgetown or in, which is really the capital city. They're not, and also, even though you have various forms of media and the people, they do have access, but not all of them, or not the majority of them, access these things. So sometimes the politicians need to have some interpersonal interaction or communication and not to be dependent on the local administration or the local administrators, because that would be the influencing factor, because people, you have to capitalize on the emotional feelings of the people at the time, and discontent spreads faster than the good that the government is doing. So it is very important that the PVP make considerable effort to transmit what the people can relate to and not what they think that the people should relate to. And, Dr. Ganga can comment on.
Yes, I'd
Okay.
just like to add some comments there. My source of information, it's
Go ahead.
pictures and videos. So I look at the PPPC, and the crowds are hugely enthusiastic. The PNC appears to be silent and curious. And the third party that's there, the newcomer on the block, Win Asmo, the crowds look enthusiastic and somewhat curious as well. But I agree with Professor Narayan that the accomplishments in health, education, and major roads should be highlighted and the benefits should be pointed out to the voters. This is essential in all 10 regions. You can't, for statistical analysis and projections purposes, divide the voting population into strongholds, which is largely regions 1 through 6, and non strongholds, regions 7 through 10, because you will find that there are some high percentages of votes in the 4 6 regions going to major parties, and the low hanging fruits could very well be the non strongholds in regions 7 through 10. I wasn't aware of the breakdown in terms of the topping up. That's the election system. Somewhat, it's based on the Constitution. 40% top up and 25 regional and geographical. I will label that as somewhat as a constituencies in the for the 25 seats. So the seat allocation should be looked at secondarily. The accomplishments and records of achievement would do well for the government, because I have not seen such immense developments and major strides taken in health, education, and major roads. All of these lean more on infrastructural, but there is work left undone, and that is to find the human resources needed to accompany the physical infrastructure. And I think that would be the challenge at the next election. And they should point this out, that we have done this in 4 or 5 years, and there is much more work left to be done. So that would be my closing statement there. There is
Okay.
work to be done.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Ganga. Now we ask Mr. Shad Kublal, who holds a master degree in regional and regional planning, regional urban planning, and who has a lot of practical experience. So he just recently returned to Guyana, having spent some time and evaluating the situation to some extent. So, Mr. Kublal, can you please offer your
I can you guys hear
comment?
me clearly?
Yes, go
Um,
ahead.
you've just heard a breakdown of the regional seats, and that is 25 seats. From all indication, from my experience and from a number of persons I've spoken to, and from many political analysts in Guyana, it seemed clearly that in the regional sector, PP will easily get 8 regions. They will win 8 regions. That is the popular support among, well, a lot of politicians as well as political analysts. The two region that is very um, questionable is Region 4 and Region 10. As Tara just indicated, Region 4 has 10 regional seats and Region 10 has 2 seats. But it does not mean that because PPP may win Region 7, it means they're going to take all 7 regional seats. They can PP can the last time they got, I think, 3 out of the 4 of the 7 regional seats. Maybe they can get 4 this time out. Maybe they can get more. We don't know. But from all indication, in Guyana, PPP is attracting the largest crowd, and not only the largest crowd, but a large cross section of the population. It is the first time in the history, apart from the early 50s, that you've seen all major groups, racial groups in Guyana, are congregating behind the PPP um, rally. And like when they had the launching of the rally at Kitty, it was estimated that 40% of the crowd were Afro Guyanese. And one political analyst put it very clearly. He said the Afro Guyanese in Guyana are not only saying they're going to vote for the PPP, but they wear the red jersey, they're going out on the campaign trail and going to visit and speaking on PP platforms. And that's a clear indication that the shift of the Afro Guyanese toward the PP is become greater and greater. And well, as one of the panelists just mentioned, there's a big, development taking place in Guyana. And I want to say it very simply. One simple guy told me, he's from Canal, told me, you know what? This country should be in the Guinness Book of Record because everywhere you go in this country, there are development. It's the only country in the world where you have development and improvement in every aspect of the development, infrastructure, education, health, you name it. They're massive improvement. And because of that, the Ghana should be in the Guinness Book of Record for development purposes. That's what the layman just mentioned to me. And if you travel in Guyana, this is all what you see. I've traveled from Latem to Georgetown to Essequibo and Quarantine, and everywhere you go, there massive, massive development. Um, well, this election will, previously everybody mentioned that election has always been a race, and this election is a test whether that that argument still stands or if people are going to change because of the massive development that is taking place, and everybody is going for development rather than racial voting. That's my simple contribution to that, but there may be more.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. Just to mention too that in the last election 2020, the UPNO AFC coalition got 13 of the regional seats and the PVP got 12. So if the PVP goal got to be to reverse this, they should aim to get more regional seats. And that is tied in because the last election 2020, UPNO AFC won 4 regions, PP won 6. And if it's projected, as Mr. Koblal said, that the PP may win 10 regions, then it follows by logic that they should also improve on the regional seats to get more than 12. So we'll know about that soon in another couple of weeks. I just want to indicate too before we continue this conversation that PP got in the last election 233,000 votes. Now, because of the increase in voter registration and that got them 33 seats. For them to get 33 seats, they at least have to get at least 270,000 votes this time to get 34 seats. And to go beyond that, they have to get more than 272,000 votes. So how they do that, we don't know, but the campaign, as people said, is very. The good thing about the PP campaign that I noticed during my 2 week visit throughout the country, the people at the PP campaign are very, very energetic, enthusiastic, but still I'm hesitant to translate that into actual voting. What will force people to go out and vote or encourage them or incentivize them is to canvass door to door. That will be very effective. I spoke to the PPP regional coordinator of West Demerara, Vikas Ramkisoon, and he said that they are doing the door to door registration. And I was told by other PPP top people that they will be doing that in several locations in Guyana. That is more powerful than having these long speeches at political rally. At political rally, you can only speak to people and tell them what you achieve, what you plan to do, etc. But there's no feedback, no interaction. The audience cannot tell them what bothers them the most, what problem they would like to solve the most. But if individual canvas home to home, they get this opportunity to do that. So I think that I'm not saying that the political rally are not important. That's very important. That should be combined with door-to-door canvas to solicit, and that will yield bigger returns. Now, back to you, Professor Narayan. You've been hearing from people
The,
from your district in Region
the,
5, and what are some of the comments they have on the ongoing campaign?
yeah, I'd like to pick up on some of the things you just said. See, the perception, if it does not translate into reality, becomes a problem. You can have large crowds, and we know that sometimes, campaign crowds come about because of social contagion. Hey, man, let's go. Let's go see this. Let's go. So and so is coming. It's still, while you can do door-to-door campaign, it is also crucial for the politicians themselves to enunciate the benefits that can be accrued. In Region 5, like you mentioned, that is that people tell me, I see roads, I see other people have huge houses, but I have nothing. How do you address the needs of these people? Sometimes needs are personal, and we cannot, or politicians cannot address every person's need, but they can collectivize the developments that are taking place, and from that explain what are the benefits to be derived from those developments, because the crowd does not translate into voting. There is always some amount of complacency, and some of the complaints I've heard from people is that one of the realities, take for example, Azruddin and the Win, the he has doled out some gifts to people, and that ran rampant in terms of the verbal messaging among people. Hey, this guy is giving away things. This is Yet when you compare that with the grants that the government is giving, it doesn't translate in the same way. So the government need, whether they might think that they are seasoned politicians, it doesn't matter. They have to be able to tap into the consciousness of the population, of the voting population, and show them how that, like, the grants came about and why it came about, because there is the perception that it is free money and free things and free this, and when you get something free, there is always a craving for more. Now, how do you satisfy that cravenness? So you have to be able to, yes, do the door, but the door to door is like begging for votes, yes, but you also have to inform the people, educate the people. What are the benefits? Doc, you touch on schools and hospitals. What are the potential benefits to be derived? Yes, everybody know. And in Guyana, only when you're sick you go to see the doctor and you go to the hospital. What about primary care that reaches into the community? And how the government plan to bring that about and show that yes, we would like to have primary care within the communities and where many people have diabetes and hypertension, and how you can treat this. So you, not only because you have a regional minister or a regional representative, he or she knows how to deal with these people, especially in a state of bribery and corruption, which is rampant as well. You have to be able to assure the people that the benefits to be derived from what they are doing, and you don't have to enunciate it in you know in elaborate speeches. You just do it one, two, three, four, five. This because that is the extent of the memory bank of most of us, and so they have to be able to capitalize on what the people can remember and what they can assure the people of.
Okay. We hear what you said, but I got to tell you, the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Education, they're doing a fantastic job. They explain the program. They have for the educational program on health, etc. They have the cancer program. They have the 600,000 for diabetes patient who on dialysis. They have the medical voucher and all these things. They are touching people directly, and especially the vulnerable groups in the population. And you know, education is free from nursery to education, and they're building these quality schools, over 20 something new secondary schools. People who never had access to secondary school now will have access, similarly to University of Ghana. So they are doing a lot in that area and explaining the benefits as well. And the training, they train over 13,000 people in various skills that are necessary for the development trust of the country. Through the Tibet program managed by the Ministry of Education and through the Board of Industrial Training by the Minister of Labor. So they're doing a fantastic job there as well. And what what if I'm going to make a suggestion about what they should tell people when they go to rallies, also to focus a little more on community development, personal development, etc. And I figure that the PPP has done that to some extent. For example, they said that they will make another cash grant. It will be, they didn't state the amount, but it's in excess of 100,000 to each adult, offering, I believe, 400,000 to each individual, which the country cannot afford. So, and the vice president has already said, once they get back in office, they will increase old age pension, NIS, disability allowances, etc., the school child grant. So there's a lot we can offer, but they got to temper that with the need for inflation. And that's why with the other opposition parties are only talk about giving out money, but they're not talking about the impact on the economy, about inflation, etc. So now just before we engage Dr. Gang, I, we must talk a little too also about the opposition party, how they're doing. We don't want people to think that there's a program only to promote PPP, etc. So, Dr. Ganga, you can comment on.
Well, the distribution of benefits is very important for all the parties and especially for the government right now. Uh, to emphasize the grants economy, they're sensitive. There's a lot of sensitivity already in the in the party's strongholds, in the PPP's stronghold, there's a lot of responsiveness to cash grants. But what about the low hanging fruits in the non strongholds, which would be in region 7 through 10? There is a need to extend the conversation and the reality of housing and agricultural development, especially in Region 9. Region 9 has a lot of potential, but I have not been seeing lots of messaging targeting that area. So the low hanging fruits, regions 8 and 9, should be looked at in terms of what the people can understand. If you say cash grant, they might not get the full impact of that. They will know it's money to go to the border stations and spend it out. But if you speak in terms of housing, in terms of roads into those areas, I think they will be more responsive to what the government is doing. So we have to speak their language. We have to show it in tangible terms, to show it in monetary terms and more abstract ways like inflation and so forth. We would not get their full attention. So that's my broad comments on that. There is one aspect I like to see this continue. This is a Chedi Jagan's legacy, and that is community farming in agriculture. So most of our well-established polar communities, they thrived on community farming, and that is how we build the fabric of Guyana. Because right now we must understand that there's a major kind of metamorphosis that is taking place with Guyana's population. It could be very well be a population exchange, but we need to ground the the old traditional Guyanese in terms of community-based development, and we need to identify these communities and go there and speak in terms of real things, real objects, physical development. The roads is one of those, but the roads are the major roads. The community roads should be emphasized as well. I think the president did mention that in some of his speeches, but we, as Professor Narayan said, we need to reach out to the people and in practical ways and tangible ways in order to grab their attention. So
Okay, with
Dr.
respect to
Tara,
region, uh,
can we take a break at this
yeah,
time?
okay.
We'll be back after these messages. Go ahead, Dr. Tara.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Dr. Ganga, Region 1, 7, 8, and 9, primarily Amerindian areas. The government has done substantially. They are integrally integrated in the wider community now. They get 15% of the carbon credit money allocated them through the Amerindian Development Fund. They also get agricultural machinery free of duty. They already remove the tax that they had imposed on interior travel to these neighborhoods. Rupununi Region 9, they built a new hospital. They have a massive housing project going on there as well. Plus, they're experimenting with wheat. Hopefully, that will be a success and they can start their other agricultural products that they're doing. Every region has been developing at a similar pace. None is neglected to the extent of other. So the government is putting a lot of emphasis in the Amerindian areas and like land titling, which is a major issue, which was held back by the Granger administration in the last government. That is being pursued vigorously, and more Amerindians are getting titles to the land. Many of them who are involved in mining, they get all their mining equipment duty free, etc. So the government is doing quite a lot. And overall in the country, the government has built so far over or rehabilitated over 8,000 roads in Guyana, including in the interior areas. Some of the mountainous areas you can see brand new roads are being built. So the government is doing tremendous work there. And it's not a question of a stronghold. The government is trying as far as possible to get equal development across the regions. I mean, e- equality will never be attained, but that's the goal. And so the government is treating them equally well. I can tell you that. I mean, I've seen that for myself. I travel in Amerindian areas regularly. I travel throughout the coast, the quarantine. This time I didn't go to Essequibo. And anyhow, now let's bring back Mr. Strat Kublal.
Um, I just want to emphasize a little before I go a little, speak a little about the political structure. Um, I want to emphasize too that in Region 9, the Ministry of Agriculture is growing corn and soya, and they hope that by the end of this year or early next year, Ghana will be self-sufficient in soya production as well as corn. Rice is becoming very popular growing in the Rupununi. I mean, I was shocked to hear and see that there's a rice mill presently in the Rupununi, and all the rice that are grown there is being serviced at the rice mill. Um, so agriculture in the regions where there are a lot of land are being emphasized on, and of course there's a lot of soil sampling going on, and they're identifying areas where you can have different crops. As you know, the Ministry of Agriculture is really diversifying um, agriculture in every region. In Region 1, they're testing the soil to see what are the best crops you can grow there, and they're emphasizing a lot on that. We know that there are six political structures in Guyana contesting the election. But so far as I see, and many persons I spoke to in Guyana, their opinion is that the two major parties, the PVP and the AF and the APNU or PNC, are the major parties, and they're the ones who will have the bulk of the vote. Some people see AFC as not gaining much, perhaps one seat, if ever. A lot of emphasis has been placed on the new party by Mohammed win, and some people believe that um, they can get at least three or more seats. From a lot of listening to a lot of political analysis, and from what my own observation and what I've seen, I feel that Win is becoming like CN Sharma, making a lot of noise and a lot of waves in the media, but in substance there's nothing. And one of the panelists mentioned that crowd does not transfer into votes, and not because you see a lot of people going at when um, meetings, it means that will translate into votes. I can remember in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, when the WPA have a meeting, they're getting about 7,000 people. When the PP getting their meeting, they're getting 3 and 4,000 people. And when the PNC having their meeting, they're getting between 1 to 2,000 votes, people at their meeting. But after election, WPA could not have a seat. They couldn't even muster a seat. So crowd does not mean that translate into votes. And this is what I see happening in Win, or happening with Win. They A lot of people go to the Win meeting hoping to get a money, and hoping to get some money. And Guyanese, they're always short of cash, and there's a lot of elements in Guyana who will go just for 1,000 or even less. And it will be seen on social media that this guy Mohammed is sharing out 5,000 to a number of people who attend the meeting. So that by itself give a lot of Guyanese the indication that if you go to this guy meeting, there's a possibility to get $5,000 or perhaps more. And that is what you see as the development of their crowd. But I don't think that will translate into votes. I really don't see. Personally, I don't think Will is even going to get a seat. That's my personal opinion. Despite other people think that he can get at least 3 or more seats, I don't think he's going to get a seat. And this happened to the WPA in the 70s and the 80s. And CN Sharma also, it happened to. He used to have he used to be very popular among the people in Georgetown, but that did not translate into any vote. What is happening with Win is the same thing. There's a lot of people, and what they have been doing in the social media, they are duplicating the crowd. That it looks like a big crowd, but it is not necessarily a big crowd. If you look carefully at the pictures, you'll see it's the same set of people are being, what should reshuffle all over the time. And it does not really show that they're having a big crowd. I don't think, as I said before, Win is going to get a seat. So I see the contest in the election is going to be between the PPP and the PNC. The PNC or
Okay,
APNU have their base, and they have the
okay,
base. You want to
okay.
start?
Mr. Kublal, I want to engage you there. If the contest is between the PVP and APNU is so weak now, there's so many crossover, or the top leaders move to the AFC and the PPP. It's the weakest the weakest the PNC has ever been and APNU. So why do you think they will pose a big challenge, and you exclude these
I,
other
I, I,
four parties?
I didn't say that the PNC or APNU is going to pose a big challenge to the PPP. What I'm saying that APNU or the PNC, they have their base. Irrespective of the leadership, whether it's Norton or whoever it's going to be, they will vote for the PNC. What you got to look at, there's a lot of young Afro Guyanese are moving across to PPP, and it's been manifested in all the the meetings and all the campaigning that they have had, the PP have had. Look at the last PYU conference that they had all over the regions. A great proportion, at least about 40% of each of those groups were Afro Guyanese youth. The Amerindian, of course, they don't have in our Amerindian committee, is just Amerindian. But then you have a lot of Amerindian young people. You have over 2,000 CSOs who are working in their community, and they're not only doing their work for the community, they're also campaigning for the PPP. I mean, this is a silent thing. So you got to understand that PP is in a very, very, very strong position, and I predict that it will get over 40. I predict 40 seats, both top up and regional seats. Some people see
So,
differently. Some people claim that they will get 33 or perhaps the most 36 seats. But when you look at the PNC, as I mentioned, they will have their base, but a lot of the young people is moving away, and that will be a challenge in the next election.
So you're saying that issues will play a very important role in this election as opposed to race. Is that
Absolutely.
your
Absolutely.
you're saying
The
that?
young, you see, one of the things that's happened in Guyana in the last 10 years or more is that Afro youth and Indo youth, as well as other racial groups, they're intermingled very easily than before. And then they don't have this racial animosity or racial biases as you can think about. They move freely, they go to home freely. Like one person tell me the minister, one of the minister son is dating one of the PNC um, daughter. So this gives you the indication of what our young population is about and what they like. So I don't see race is going to have a big impact on the younger generation. I don't see that. I
All
see
right.
people in a very, very strong position.
I hope your position is correct. That'll be good for the country. Professor Narayan, your comments.
Pick up on just a few things very quickly. One, what Dr. Ganga said is true. And Banerjee, in his book on poor economics, mentioned that the community based sufficiency, whether it's agriculture or whatever it, must be addressed. Now, it is nice to say, okay, we gone into this community and we have done so and so and so. Allow, give people land to go and plant. But have you found a market, or have you tell them, have you ensure that there is a market and we will help you to market what you have once you have produced it? That is not coming across clearly from the people I have been talking to. Secondly, yes, there is a generational deconstruction of the hostilities of racism, but you have to capitalize on that deconstruction by by having a group of people involved with you is fine. But what about the perception of the Guyanese who see this differently? The group that says, oh, they are giving more to this than to us. That becomes a divisive issue, and it must be addressed because you have to translate these things into the reality of the lived experiences of Guyanese. And it can be done, but it must be done with conviction and with consistency, and also it must be done regularly, not occasionally. So we have to guard against this numbers and crowds and all these kind of things, because complacency is still the underlying attribute of many people.
You finish? Okay, Dr. Ganga.
Yes, I have three comments. The first is related to the carbon credits that you described. Everything
Yeah.
you said there is true, but there is one reality. The total carbon credits in the national budgets is small compared to the other flows that are occurring in terms of current and capital expenditure financing. And it is even much lower if you allocate just 15% to Amerindians. I believe strongly it should be 100%, and they should
Mhm.
spend it wisely in terms of what we call a development model, a real development model, which is community based agriculture. This is different from commercial agriculture, which enhances the GDP and aims at national self sufficiency. The feedback and the backflow into communities is lost in this process. But we have the statistics that we can brag about that our GDP increased in terms of corn and soya beans. You know, many countries can do the same thing. Our neighbors do that. Brazil, they've taken up forested lands for soya bean and corns, but you still have huge amounts of poverty. Probably about 20 million people who are poor in Brazil and are ready on the march to cross the border into Guyana. In the past, it was our lack of access to the interior that kept Guyana's pristine environments, but all that is undergoing change. So if we're going to change that, first we must make it community based rather than commercialize it, so that we can brag about our GDP growth. So that's the second comment. The third comment is about the the strongholds, and this is purely statistical. There are um, swing voters, and they swing due to racial realignment, as Professor Narayan mentioned. That I think Professor Anshrada also mentioned that people are comfortable with each other racially, but this is in the stronghold areas, in the traditional areas, and it's purely statistical that we will have enhancement in our from 2020 and looking forward to 2025. So I think we should put a lot more emphasis, in our community development models and make it realistic versus the national commercial endeavors that we have. And I want to say this again, that I believe the carbon credits allocation is extremely low. And notwithstanding agricultural machinery and interior travel, and there is a commendable Rupunini housing, but that needs to be embracive and inclusive. So those are my three comments: the
Okay.
carbon credits, the community agriculture,
Okay.
and the
Now,
statistical
now you
swing
must
votes.
understand the carbon credit is not only monetary allocation to the Amerindian. There is the Amerindian Development Fund as well, and there is also titling fund, which is separate from that as well. Then, if you're going to say 750 million US is a small amount, that is a total amount of carbon credit, of which 15% goes directly to Amerindian villages. So I don't know why you said that is an insignificant amount. The total carbon credit 750 million plus they intend to sell more. They still have carbon credits to sell. And well, you can argue that 15% is a low percentage for Amerindian community. You can argue more. But the Amerindian community get funding from other sources, from the central government. They build roads, drainage system, all these. So there's a great deal of financial input into Amerindian communities. I just want to, and then soya bean, as Mr. Koblal said in Rupinuni, but they produce massive soya bean and corn in the quarantine, and that alone is good enough to meet the local needs. Well, not right now, but it's within another couple months that will satisfy local needs. So that is another innovative measure undertaken by the government in the agricultural sector. And they do have the Ghana Martin Board, which will buy farmers' produce at a given price, and then they will export some, and some they will sell to local. So they have that. Whether they should have regional buying centers, that is something they should. Regional rice marketing boards, that is something that they can consider. So the government taking taking marketing seriously, because under the 2030 food program that they have, in other words, Guyana Caribbean should reduce their food consumption by 25% to 2030. Guyana is leading on that, and they are boosting. So not only Guyana but the Caribbean, they are trying to boost agriculture production and the export of agricultural products as well. And that is shown by data. Dr. Ganga, you can review the bank and see how agricultural products are now being expanded for export. Well, we don't know to what extent the 15% tariff imposed by the Trump administration will affect that. Now, back again to
No,
Mr.
I just
Kublal.
like to add a
Yeah,
comment
yeah,
there.
go ahead.
We
Go
need
ahead.
to review our developmental models and see if the export oriented model it just gives us employment, selective employment benefits versus community wide benefits. That's the point. I think Professor Narayan talked about that when he mentioned that we would like to see, or the community would like to see, what crops or what goods they have from their farms that goes to the marketplace. Once you can demonstrate that into by to the rural population, which we recently acknowledged that we have a poverty problem, and the problem is not concentrated;
Well,
it is distributed in the remote areas and so on. So we need to address that, and that's where the politicians would harvest the low hanging fruits.
w-
Eh,
well, the poverty program that they have, problem that they have, was based on 2018, 2019 survey by the World Bank, which put it at 47%, and people still apply that to modern day, despite the vast improvement in Guyana now. There is job for any able person who wants to work, and people do not work for 10,000 Guyana dollars a day anymore. Some people work 25 to 30 US per day, some 40, some 50 US, just a clean yard. If you go to Guyana, the situation is completely different now, and the Minister of Labor estimates that less than 3 to 5% of the people are unemployed, and most of the unemployed do not want to work. Most of them, there is vacancies. The government now has to embark on a special immigration policy to import labor to work in Guyana. This poverty thing is highly used for political purposes. I don't believe the poverty rate can never be 47%. It's below 20%. And the census that will come out after the election will clearly demonstrate that. So I
That
don't buy into this. There's no empirical evidence to suggest that there's deep poverty now in Ghana. Of course, there are pockets of poverty like Plastic City in Britain Hoop, some sections of Wales Potential area, Pigeon Island in the East Coast, and there are some areas in the quarantine. There are some pockets it will take time, and especially the squatting communities where they are trying to regularize. Most of them, I think only 26 squatting communities of a total of 86 have been regularized already. And the few of them, they're committed to regularize them in the. So those are the most vulnerable and poor people. Is not can nowhere be 47% of the population. And anyhow, going to
Dr. Tara,
Mr. Koblal.
I have a question. I have a question
Yeah,
for
go
you.
ahead. Go ahead.
Um, you can articulate the achievements with a certain degree of proficiency. How well do you think the government is doing that so that the people understand? You mentioned, like in the Amerindian area, there is a confluence of resources that come to aid the community or to assist the community. How well do you think, given your understanding of what's going on, how well that is translated so that the inhabitants of these communities understand that the government is doing everything possible to assist them and to reassure them that while this is going on, here are some future initiatives that the community can help the government with. So, given
Well,
your
I can
experience,
tell you,
happening.
I can, I can tell you that the government allows these Amerindian communities to determine their own needs and what is important for them, and they work along with the two show organization, the local councils that they have. They put forward a mini development program and social programs, and the government normally agree with them and give them the funding to carry out these. So they do have a great deal of understanding and reciprocity between the government and the Amerindian community. Most of that done is through the two show arrangement that they have.
Does this translate to other communities as well?
To the to the American community that work well. For other
Yeah.
communities, I
Yes.
can't speak on that. I don't know that yet, but I can check that out. And
These things need to be emphasized.
Mr. Kublal, your final thoughts?
You mentioned of some of the development that are taking place in the rural community. I want to emphasize on the shrimp industry, which has become $1 billion industry now in Guyana, especially in the Corentyne area. Fish, prawns, sweetwater prawns is becoming a very big industry in Guyana, especially in the farming community, the poor community. So what I see happening in Guyana, there's a great diversity of economic activities, agriculture, and elsewhere. When you go in Guyana, I this is one way I assess people. You see everybody smiling. At one time, when you travel in Guyana, everybody had a long face. And now, as you move around, you find people all smiling. Everybody is shopping. You go to the market, every single person are shopping. Restaurants are developing all over the country, and everybody can go there. You go to the bar, people still be there flocking about drinking. Everybody have money in their pocket. That's one of the better things. In the Amerindian community, there are a number of activities that the government is doing to assist. And I think it's happening all over the country. Um, so I see all of this translating into vote for the PPP. Call me a strong PP supporter, but I see all the development that is taking place and all the happiness of people, the way of life, the on all the roads, all every single community roads in Guyana. Perhaps there may be some that are still left to be done, but everyone that is visible, all the roads are completed in the various communities. Everybody walk on concrete roads or pit roads now. There's no grass road or like I belong to my Coney Creek. Where I live, I've never seen pit road has gone right past where you live miles away in. People can drive in with the car and drive out, which used to take a day to come out. And then people go to the hospital in Georgetown, they have to find a place to sleep. Now people goes in and drive out all the time. So everywhere development is taking place, and not only in the economic sector, but the physical structures also. And Tara mentioned about the schools and the hospital that take place. I mean, we see it was at Bath Settlement when they opened the Bath Settlement Hospital. There were 5 tents, and all the tents were packed with people. Thousands, I estimated about 5,000 people were there just to witness the opening of the Bath Settlement Hospital. People are simply happy. They enjoy what is going on and enjoy a happy life. I hope this will translate
Okay.
into votes
Mhm.
for the PPP.
All right. I just want to make an additional comment to the government has built 12 new hospitals, including 6 regional hospitals. 3 have been opened, and 3 will be open soon. Plus the maternity, obstetric, and maternity hospital at Ogle, which is 160 something million US. There's a comment which I saw from Professor Mahindra saying that even 20% poverty is not acceptable. I just want to tell him United States had been in existence for centuries, and the poverty rate in this country is 11%. The poverty rate in New York City is 19%. They have not been able to eliminate poverty. And no one should think that any country can eliminate poverty. If the United States can't eliminate it, I can't see any country doing it. And Ghana goal is to reduce poverty at least to single digits. Um, Professor Narayan, your final thoughts.
Well, what I think the government is doing a tremendous job, and they have done a lot within a short span of time. But sometimes with speed also must come the urgency to translate that into what benefits it brings. And I hope that that message does not get lost in the process, that all of the developments that are taking place is for the benefit of the people and not for a particular group as such. And to tie it in with the one Guyanese unity or the one Guyanese uh, citizenry, which they are trying to, it has to tie into that. And then it will facilitate an evolution of a new Guyanese mentality.
All right, Dr. Ganga, your final thoughts.
Yes, there is no doubt that there is unfinished work for the government, and I recommend that they get into the office again and continue what they have done so far. One of the main areas they need to look at is to convert the grants care transfer program into a policy driven program so that their expectation across the country would be uniform and their people can engage in planning their personal lives. So those would be my closing comments. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Shamiza. We have any time for any questions from viewers?
We really don't have any questions, Dr. Tara, but we are over by 10 minutes. So
Okay,
I
all
would
right.
say, yeah.
Well,
At this time, I would like to thank all of our viewers for taking the time to be here this evening. To our panel, thank you. It was truly an interesting conversation tonight. We should have more of these conversations. And to all of our viewers, thank you for joining us. So until next time, I'm your host, Shamisa Ali, and this is the Guyana Dialogue. Good evening,
uh,
everyone.
thank you, Shamiza.
Good
Thank you,
evening, Shams.
Professor. Thank you, Dr. Ganga. Thank you, Shrad Kublal. Until again, it's late.